Yo, what's going on, y'all? Spikes you here, or Spikes and you. Look, okay, today we're going to cover something that I think everyone would love to hear about. So I was looking on Reddit the other day and someone asked, what is actually decent gear? So I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can in a way that not only is it relevant to right now, so spring 2023 event, this is March 8th of this video, but so that is relevant and you can it kind of gives the foundation for what you need to know moving forward. So it's going to follow the same kind of logic moving forward. So hopefully I can explain it in a good way that allows new players and those who are not new players a good understanding fully of what's decent gear. I understand that there's different play styles and stuff like that, so I'm going to touch on that as well. This isn't just a one track mind, one sight tunnel vision. I'm going to cover on everything, so let's dive right in, I guess. Right, let's go. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe on the video if you like this type of content, and to help support the channel and the growth of the channel and more videos like these, because it's getting amazing. Sorry, getting anyways, all right, so look, first touch on, I guess, the types of builds that there are. So we're gonna start with units first. That's what we're gonna start with. We're gonna start with units, and we're gonna try to cover all these. And so basically there's a few different types of play styles that you'll see pretty much across the board. You're gonna see your high potency builds, which is where you're just focusing on getting as high potency as you possibly can. This is pretty much your Eclairs build, by the way, which is the glass cannon, as people might know it as. And we're going to get deeper into this stuff. Then you have your floor potency builds, where you're focusing more so on getting your floor potency up, which basically, in short, that's just so say that you hit between 50 and 100. So when you increase your floor potency, it's going to make it so you're hitting you're hitting it between 70 and 100 instead of 50 and 100. That's what floor potency does. So on average, you're hitting at your lowest number is a higher number on average. That's what floor potency does. And then you have your balance builds, which are going to have high potency, but also have a good amount of floor potency as well, but not going to be entirely thrown into one or the other, right? And then you have your tank builds. I'm touching on this only because I want to address all of these different forms, right? But the tank build is not a very viable option. However, we will get further and discuss on the tank build. The tank build that I know some people do enjoy. Though, as an MMO player myself, I played Final Fantasy XI for 10 years on retail, for 3 years on a private server. I'm very familiar with MMOs, so I do understand how people would want to play tank role and all that. So that's completely understandable. However, it doesn't necessarily work too well on this game in specific. Okay, so types of armors currently available. We'll go down the line. Well, we have the Eclair. Basically, these are the types of armors that are okay for you to be wearing right now as of spring 2023. Basically, you have your Eclairu, I think that's how you say it, which is the glass cannon armor. You have your Ajax, you have your Ephetus armors, Beta or Belta, Ajax, that's a Belta, Arga, Shiza are your three Ephetus armors. And then you have the Epties, I'm not sure how you say that, Epties Vito, Epties Vita. So Vito and Vita. So those are the armors pretty much that you are going to be looking at right now. I actually might see, let's see if I have some actually in my inventory right now. This actually might give up better. So this is the Eclair armor that you're looking at. Then you have your Ephetus armors, which I actually have. I'm actually wearing some. And you have your Ajax. It looks like I don't have any of these. These are the Epsize Vita and Vito. Okay, so we have these as well. Well, I guess we'll dive in here as we talk about them, okay? So first and foremost, the Eclair. We'll talk about the Eclair first. The Eclair is the lowest defense that you can get out of any of these armors that are the viable options right now. I will make an honorable mention of Belgrin. However, that's like, you're going to see people wearing Belgrin. You should not be wearing a Belgrin. You just should not be wearing a Belgrin. This should be one of these armors that I just named, that we're about to go over. Okay, this is what you should be wearing in 2023 spring, March right now, but probably until the level cap raise at 75. These are probably your viable. These are your viable options. I doubt that we're going to get another unit. Maybe we will, but I doubt that we will before the new region, or not the new region, but the level cap comes in June with the ultra update of 75 in cap level cap increase. But so first we have the Eclair, which has the lowest base out of all the armors that all the units that I just listed. However, it has the highest potency. It has 4% potency across the board, and that's really the selling point for it. It gives negative damage resistance on it as well. As you can see here, it gives minus 5% damage resistance. So if you have 3 of these babies, that's minus 15% damage resistance. Hence why it's called the glass cannon, because it gives the highest amount of potency out of anything we have available, but you pay dearly for it. Also, keep in mind that this does not give any HP or photon points, whereas most of these other armors do. Keep this in mind into your calculations. Most tryhards are going to be like, oh, glass cannon, glass cannon, glass cannon. However, I'm not going to sit here and try to force feed that down you, because I'm going to think more logically and understand that there's different play styles and different types of people who play the game. Me personally, I actually don't even rock Eclairs, and purposely for a reason. Mainly because I don't like the glass cannon. I did. Anyways, okay, so that's the Eclair. You'll see this a lot on just people who are just like tryhards and just like, it's all about the potency. It's all about the potency. This is like, if you're using this build, you're pretty much doing potency builds where you're just stacking your potency. That's what you're doing if you're using the Eclair, more or less. Okay, so moving on to the next one, what would be your Ephesus armors? Actually, no, the Ajax, I think is what I said second, right? Yeah, okay, so moving on to these, what would be your Ajax armors? Which, let's see, I can actually show you the one that I have equipped right now. So I have an Ajax armor equipped right now. And this is an Ajax. This is an Ajax armor right here. The base on this is 3.5% damage. Now, if you remember, the Eclair has a 4.0% potency, right? So the potency is what I meant when I said damage. So these ones have a 3.5% potency. These are the most recent units that have been released. These also come with HP plus 30 and I believe PP plus 5. That's what they come with flat. So that's very nice. That's very nice. You'll understand that even more as we continue on with some of the other pieces. To make this even better, this piece comes with a plus 1% damage resistance. This piece, the Ajax, is the best unit to really be using right now. If you're not the glass cannon meta, you know, and yeah, I feel, you know, the glass cannon meta is cool and all, but I think it's more logical to get that benefit of the HP and the PP as well, because what you miss out a lot on the PP from the Eclair, and then your HP is very low as well, so you die easy, and if you're dead, you're not giving damage, and if you don't have enough PP, you're also not inputting or outputting as much damage, because you cannot use as many photon arts in repetitive sequence before you need your meter to fill back up, right? So keep that in mind too when you're making these units, that you want PP. You do want PP. Yeah, get the jokes out. All right, go ahead, get the jokes out. Anyways, you want the PP, so keep that in mind. Ajax I would recommend right now as the best option for you. I do have a fix on here. We'll cover Fixas later. I do have a fix on here. I was fortunate and got this. I didn't pay for that. I got this to drop from Dark Falls Ages, so that was nice. Anyways, moving on to the next units, you'll see here I'm actually using the Ephesus units. The Ephesus units are the next in line. They have a 3.0% potency. However, these ones, to make sure that you're getting the correct one, there's 3 different types. There's Ephesus Belta, which is what you're seeing right here, the blue one. There's Ephesus Arga, which is the red one. And there's Evitus Shiza, or Sheza, however you want to pronounce it, which is the gold yellow one. The blue one is going to be range and tech, as you see here. Whereas the Arga, the red one, will be melee and ranged. And then the Sheza will be tech and melee. So make sure that you're getting the proper one for the classes that you're going to be using them with. That's the one bad thing about the Evitus, as they're a little bit dated. They're from the last region, but they're still very viable, especially if you have Fixas, which we will go into in a little bit. Okay, now this words we're diving in, y'all. We're diving in. Anyway. One of the plus things about these also is that, well, the plus thing about all these units besides the Eclair is that they all give HP, they all give PP. So keep that in mind as well. And notice that we're going to go to fix this later, but keep in mind that Evitus is really nice right now because you can get high fixes for cheap, and it makes a difference. However, let me say this before we move forward. Fixes are a luxury. Do not focus on fixes until you have units that you want to be units. You can always move fixes from other units. From if the same unit, like say you get a unit to drop, but you've already made that unit, but it's the same unit, you can actually move that fixer over. So like, don't worry too much about fixes. They're a luxury. They're entirely a luxury. Do not worry about fixes, especially on units. They're great on weapons too, but just worry about the weapon first. Getting the weapon, getting the proper augments first, and then worry about the fixes. Okay. So that's the big thing about the Evituses. They do start with HP plus 30, PP plus 4. So that's similar to the Ajax, which was HP plus 30, PP plus 5. So you're getting the HP and that PP, which is a very big thing, especially when you add them up in 3 units. That's a big increase in comparison. My alarm just went off. In comparison to getting nothing as you get from the Eclair besides just potency. And then lastly, we have the Epties. Let's see here. Epties. So the Epties, there's going to be 2 different variants of this. There are 3. They're very straightforward. It's just like the Evitus, where it's 3.0, except you get across the board. As you can see, all these are 3.0, 3.0, 3.0. These are flat units that have not been leveled or anything of the sort. Just fly across the board. It's 3.0. So in that regard, it's like, you know, an Ajax or an Eclair, where you don't have to worry about finding the correct one for the classes that you're going to be using with it. Correct? And so these ones, with the Vita, you're going to have HP plus 55, no PP. Whereas if you go down to the VO, you'll have no HP, but you'll get PP plus 10. So keep in mind that the Ajax and the Eclair, the Ajax and the Evitus give PP 5 and PP 4, whereas Eclair gives PP 0. Right? So yeah, you have 4 units here that you can kind of choose from, and they kind of all offer different things. Personally, I would recommend, if you can get anything, get the Ajax. That's what I would recommend. I think that was the best unit for most people, especially with the damage resistance that it gives. I think it's the best all around unit. Get the Ajax. They're super cheap. I'm pretty sure they're super cheap right now. They're maybe not as cheap as the other ones, but they're cheaper. Get those. Okay, so those wraps up the units that you want to get. Okay, and now we'll touch on the fixes for those units. There's 3 different types of fixes that you'll find for units. There's different fixes for weapons as well. The fixes for the units are going to be Performa, Natura, and Enthusia, and Guard. That's 4, right? Guard should be self-explanatory. It increases your damage resistance, which is what you'll see a lot of people use on the Eclair, because the Eclair gives you minus 5% damage resistance, so people try to make up for it, which is where using some of these other units with these other fixes can very much negate the 4.0 potency that Eclair has. Because while people are focusing on putting that Guard on Eclair, you can be putting things such as Performa across the board, right? You could be putting things such as Performa across the board. Performa gives PP consumption. Of course, this is depending on the level of Performa, it increases, right? So Performa level 3 gives 3%. I believe 1 gives probably like 1% or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. That's Performa. Enthusiast gives recovery. So I'll quickly. So when you're hitting a mob, the rate in which you're gaining PP back, because you get PP back when you hit mobs. That's what Enthusiast gives. And then Natra is just Natra is literally just when you're standing still, you recover PP quicker. Bruh. Why would you do that? I do not know. Just there is no reason for Natra. Natra there's a reason why you see those on the personal shop and they never sell. But anyways, so those are the fixes that you need to be aware of for the units. I should make this like a 2-part video or something like that. I feel like this can be a long video. Anyways, okay, so now let's touch on the augments. This is a part where I'm sure a lot of you are really would like to know here. And so we'll try to touch on this as best as we can. So right now we have 5 slots in which you can have stuff in, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we see 5 slots right here. Let's move this over a little bit. And so pretty much this is how it's going to break down. You're going to have a Gigas. You're going to have an ability. And you're going to have a soul. And then the other 2 are going to kind of vary. Okay. And the ability is actually going to kind of vary now, as that's usually going to be what you're going to use in place of the Halfanal. So if you have a Halfanal, you'll be probably putting that where the ability's at. So the ability is just like precision 4. By the way, as of the making of this video, pretty much you want to look, as you see here, they're all 4s. These are the highest augments that you're going to find right now. Of course, in the future, there will be 5s, and they will apply the same way. Of course, if you can't afford these things, you can kind of just drop down 1. But a lot of these things are pretty cheap now, and they're pretty accessible. Currently, there's an event going on right now where you can even get these Gigas from the seasonal shop. So take advantage of that. There's also an SG that's currently available. We'll actually show that right now, where you can buy these right here. These are available till the 4th of next month. So these come, if you spend 850 SG, you'll get an in rare drop, 24-hour, 50%, and the NEXP, and then you can get Gigas Might or Gigas Precision or Gigas Tech S. Whenever there's an S, by the way, for those who don't know, this also goes with the Mastery 4. Whenever there's an S, a lot of people don't know this. I actually didn't know this starting out. But when there's an S on these augments, it means that you only need 1. So normally you would need 10 of these for, a high chance of success. When there's an S at the end of these augments, it means it's 100%. This also applies to all Addy augments. When you see an Addy augment, you might think, wow, those are so expensive. You do not need 10 of those. You need 1 Addy augment. And it is a guaranteed 100% success rate. A lot of people, I feel, do not know that. And so they get overwhelmed by the Addy because they think, oh, wow, it's just so expensive. I can't afford an Addy. But you can. You can. You only need 1. And it's a guaranteed augment. And there's some cheaper Addies that still give 3.0 percentage on potency. So, but anyways, that's just a heads up for those right now. During this, take advantage of that SG shop while you can, if you have the SG to do so, because that's very beneficial, and you don't have to worry about collecting 10 of them and everything like that and expending the money. So that's a plus. That's a huge plus. That's a very freaking huge plus.
Hey, listen.
Know what I'm saying? Listen to Navi, y'all. Okay. So pretty much, so that's as I said. So you have the Gigas, you have the soul, and then you have the ability, or pretty much what you're aiming at, right? Those are kind of like the 3 staples that you're gonna have, and then the other 2 are pretty much going to be an Addy or a Mastery, an Alts Secreta, or a Dread Keeper. Those are pretty much what that's going to compile. So so these are pretty much are set. You're gonna have your gigas, which you get from your high level malevolent gigantics, the big purple enemies that like to kill everyone. This is where you get these from. Those are pretty much going to be a guaranteed slot that you're going to have in there. The souls you get from urgent quests. These are always super cheap. You can buy these in the personal shop, probably around 1K. They're all super cheap, regardless of which one that you need. They're all different. They have different stats on them. Just get one make sure that it's 3.0. And if you want, there's some with PP, there's some with HP, whichever ones you want. Just make sure it is a 4 and has 3.0 percentage as of this update. Of course, in the future, we'll have ones with 4.0, etc., etc., etc. Halfa now is currently the only augment with 4.0. So those are pretty much what you want. That's pretty much the guideline for that. And basically it breaks down into how you're gearing your class. So pretty much, like if you're going for the full potency build, or the tank build, you want to put Dread Keeper Force across your units. I'm reacting this way because please don't do that. Please do not put Dread Keeper Force like across all 3 of your units, only because you're losing on so much PP. Don't get me wrong. I do have Dread Keeper on one of my units. It's also very dependent on what weapon you're using as well. But in any case scenario, having 3 Dread Keepers just is not a good play. Pretty much you just want to focus on getting a good amount of potency, and if you're doing the balance build, kind of like I did, get 4 potency in there. Mastery is nice for that, and that's pretty much where you want to be at. Your percentage should be somewhere around 80, or I'm trying to think, like 75 up. I would say 75 would be the low end. I would say if you have to get like some lower end augments, you can't afford the 4s. Maybe you have to go to Gigas 3 or something like that if you have to. So I would say your potency should be somewhere around 75 up. 75 at the very least, I would say, currently as of now. The fixes as well. How I was talking about earlier with the fixes, I didn't really touch on this because it's, like I said, they're a luxury. But so I have fixes performance across all of my units, but I have Ephesus and Ajax, whereas Eclair is 4.0 potency. However, because of the performance that I have on here, I'm able to get much more photon arts off, which pretty much negates that difference of that potency from the Eclair. And you can see that when I play against people who have an Eclair, but we're whispering here because that's a little secret of mine. Anyways, all right, moving on. So weapons is what we'll talk about next here, and it'll kind of bounce back to that. Basically, there's 3 weapons that you should be using. Right? Okay, now there's a handful. Okay, but more or less it's going to be the Neos Astrian series, or the Coclophis is a viable option if you just cannot get a Neos Astrian, which they're not hard to obtain now. So, or a Gunblaze, as long as it's high Fixa. Well, we'll just say a Gunblaze. We'll touch on the high Fixa thing. However, I would not recommend a Gunblaze too much of anyone. Gunblaze is a very high level weapon in terms of play style. You cannot get hit. If you get hit, you're negating the whole purpose of using a Gunblaze because of how it works. If you get hit, you are without its critical rate boost for 30 seconds, I believe, 15 or 30 seconds. So either way, it's something very long. And if you get, all it takes is getting hit once. It's not, if you're getting hit, do not use a Gunblaze, period. And there's really no reason to now, because Astrian outperforms it easily unless it is a high Fixa. So if you have a Gunblaze that's like a Fixa Fatale 4, Fixa Fatale 5, yes, it can outperform a lower non-Fixa Neo Astrian weapon. However, no, And there's not even a contest when you go into when you start going into the Fixa Neo-Astrian weapons. There's no point to. Neo-Astrian weapons are very easily obtainable. Very easily obtainable. Just get a Neo-Astrian or get a Kotlophis if you can't get a Neo-Astrian. Or use a Kotlophis, get that, and then get a Neo-Astrian afterwards, right? That's that. I'm not even gonna sit here and touch on this Gunblaze thing because there's no point to it. There's no point to it. We also have a new weapon, which is the Trunkle, which came out released with this new update. Its potential is interesting. It gives plus 29% potency and a damage resistance plus 0.05% upon critical hit, up to 25% max. So this is a pretty interesting weapon to choose. Of course, right now during the seasonal, it gets a seasonal boost, which gives it critical hit rate plus 20 and potency plus 5 more on top of that. So of course, for seasonal mobs, it is of course a great and viable option. There's no brainer about that. If there's ever a seasonal weapon, use it on seasonal mobs. It will always be the best weapon to use at the time of the seasonal for seasonal mobs. Only for seasonal mobs. Now, that being said, the Trunkle is actually a decent weapon. It has a base damage that's not too far off from the other in-game weapons. So if you're really struggling with taking damage, you're really worried about taking damage, what I would recommend doing is instead of stacking a whole bunch of Drakekeeper 4s on your units, go for the more normal build with potency and floor potency and use a Trunkle weapon, because when you're getting crits, you're getting damage resistance built onto that. This allows for you to get more damage output, so it helps to speed things up in things such as urgent quests, such as Geo rank 2, such as purples. It helps to speed things up in terms of kill speed, so where you're not spending 30 minutes doing an urgent quest that should take 10 to 15 minutes, right? But you're also not having to worry about the damage issue of you dying, the damage resistance issue. You don't have to worry about that because you're using the Trunkle. So I think this was actually a great addition to add to the game, and it really allows for a lot of different types of play styles right now. So take advantage of that Trunkle, especially if you're one of those players that's more like, you're a little more worried about, you get hit a lot. You're not, a super, skilled player, and that, and that's fine. That's cool. I think it's really beneficial to use that. I don't have one on me. We could go to the shop. I could show you, but y'all know it. Y'all know it. I think that's really a good option though. So check that out. It's a much better viable option than putting 4 Drakekeeper 4s on your units and your weapons. You just lose out on too much potency because Drakekeepers don't give any potency. Having 1 is great, maybe 2, depending on how your built, your sets are built. But yeah, and also keep in mind, so remember we touched on floor potency and potency type builds, and for Neo-Astrian, basically this is going to apply with everything moving forward. So you have 2 types of weapons. You have weapons that have no crit inherently in them, such as Neo-Astrian. If you look at Neo-Astrian, we'll look at this right here. So there's no crit on it. There's just potency. And Photon Blast, Gauge Charge when attacking, plus 25%. PP Consumption Reduce, yada, yada, yada. We know this already. There's no crit rate on it, right? Now, if you look at weapons such as the Gunblades, let's see if I have one on me. No, I don't. We have a Tenebris, though. So this will still apply. Whereas weapons like these, you see this has crit hit rate plus 15%. So on weapons like these are weapons that are focusing solely on crit hit rate. They have a boosted crit hit rate. So this is why people like to use pure potency on weapons such as these. Gunblade's crit hit rate is even higher. So that's why it's pretty huge on just using straight potency builds, because the base rate that you're hitting doesn't really matter. You're just trying to get crits. So your crit is always going to be the max amount based on the potency level that you have, based on how much potency that you have. You're always going to be hitting that. So if you're just gambling for crits, there's no reason to get floor potency to increase your weak hits when you're just gambling for high crits. You see what I'm saying? You want crits. That's where your damage is coming from. It's getting critical hits. That's where it's coming from. That's how those weapons work. Whereas weapons like Neo's Astron don't work in that regard because they have no inherent critical rate on them. The only way you can get that crit rate boost is by having a Fixas Fatale, which gives you a crit hit rate activation boost. So as a result, with Neo's Astron weapons and the weapons of this type, this will be the same thing moving forward. So when you see crit hit rate in this potential, think potency. When you don't see it, think floor potency, because you want to push that lowest number up as much as you can, right? So if, like I said, or like I mentioned earlier, if your lowest number, if it's 50 to 100, that floor potency, keep putting that floor potency up. So that way it can be like 80 to 100. So that way the lowest that you're hitting is 80 instead of being 50. So the lowest that can possibly go is 80, right? So that's basically what you're doing there. But you still want potency on it. You don't want to just give nothing but floor potency and then have no potency on there, because that just doesn't make sense at all. So you want to balance it out. You want to balance it out. But that's how these weapons work. That's the two types of methods, two types of weapons that you're going to see that we've seen in the game so far. Maybe that changes in the future. Maybe we get critical activation augments, and then that will kind of change things a bit in regards to that. So, but those are the two type of weapons that you're going to see in the game. That's what we've seen so far. Those are really the only two types of ways to process the weapons that you're seeing and build them accordingly. So keep that in mind moving forward. As I said, to recap on that, pretty much the only weapons that you really want to be using right now as of the spring 2023 update is the Neo's Astron, the Corclofis. You could be using the Neo's Justian, which is the lower version. The light weapon is not nearly as strong unless it's against light enemies. There's not a whole lot of light enemies in the game right now, so I wouldn't really recommend that unless you're solely using it for Darkfall's Aegis. You do still get a 20% damage bonus when mobs are not light, but it's not worth it in comparison to just having a Neo's Astron itself. It will be much more beneficial, and there's no reason in augmenting both. Especially if you're stretching low on Meseta, on money, then your best bet is just augment a Neo's Astron, plain and simple. Plain and simple. That pretty much sums it up for the units. So I believe so. I'm trying to think in my head if there's anything else, but remember, someone was asking, what's decent gear? And so hopefully I touched on this in a way that it was easily understandable. I'm going to chop up the video, make sure that everything's kind of put in spots, so that way you can reference each spot, particularly in case you want to come back here and look at things and use this kind of as a guide in the future on how to build your units, build your gear, etc., etc., etc. Just keep in mind that having up-to-date gear, at least up-to-date gear, I'm not going to say strong gear, but having at least up-to-date gear with up-to-date augments, at least as close as you can, helps not only yourself, but everyone else around you. Because it can be stressful for someone to go into an urgent quest, and then, you're with a bunch of people who have gear that's like a year old, like you have people like level 70, but they have level 30 gear on with no augments on them. And then, it can be stressful, and it should be stressful for you too, as the person who's not well equipped, because you could be doing things much quicker. You could spend your time much better doing other things, and it's not expensive. You can obtain Meseta very easily in this game, to the point where you can buy these types of low budget units. Honestly, these augments are not expensive right now, so there's really no excuse not to have at least a budget minimum type build. They're not very expensive right now, and Sega is pretty much throwing these top tier augments out at us left and right here lately. So take advantage of that. Get them from the seasonal shop. Get them from the SG shop that I just showed you a little while ago, where you can get that bundle. That's a great bundle. You get a Mastery 4 and a Gigas 4 from that, 100% guaranteed augment success rate from those, that is a still, an absolute still. If you have 850 SG, you're not using it on anything else, get that. If there's any questions that you have, feel free to comment in the comments below. Be sure that you like and subscribe. Dude, we dived into this. I have no idea how long this video is, but it's probably super long. Hopefully y'all, hopefully this was informative to people, and hopefully you can keep coming back to this as a reference point for anything and everything moving forward. I'll try to make one of these kind of every, like, seasonally, I guess, as things kind of change. I'll for sure have to make one for 75, like cap increase, because things will have changed, I'm sure, by then. However, that's not for a while. If you have any questions, or if you would like to see anything else, like for me to make anything else, any specific requests, feel free to ask below in the comments. Like I said, make sure you like and subscribe. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. Much love. Keep your arguments and your units up to date, and enjoy the game. Have fun. Make some friends. Oh, by the way, I'm on ship 1. If you're on ship 1, say hello. Holla. Rawr. Just do something. Jump a few times while I'm standing around in Alio or something, or I don't know. Have a good day, y'all.